Afternoon and good evening, eXp Realty family and real estate industry friends. Happy Friday. Welcome to eXp Realty's Level Up live stream. Thank you for being here. And a special welcome if you're joining us live in the eXp World Metaverse Auditorium. Glad to have you with us. We love when you're able to jump into the metaverse. Please, everybody, use the chat box today. Let us know what you're thinking and feeling. We've got staff and folks from around the brokerage sitting here and agents hanging out together. I love it. And everybody who's joining us on YouTube, thanks for watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Turn on notifications so you can be notified when we go live. eXp goes live multiple times a week. There's Glenn Sanford podcasts and agent interviews and all kinds of special celebrations. eXp University rolls out live training all throughout the week. So it is worth it to subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you invite all the other agents that you know, regardless of industry or regardless of brokerage. We're here to elevate the entire industry. So thanks for joining us on YouTube and eXp World. If you're a regular at this show, you know what we're about to do. We're going to get your mindset rolling in the right direction. We're going to kick off your Friday with some mindset prompts. And if you're joining us for the first time, you're not sure what we're up to, don't worry. We'll explain, talk about what this is all about. And you are right on time for the big agent meeting coming up here in just 30 minutes at the top of the hour. So the prompt I want to get you thinking on and rolling in a direction is about power. The feeling specifically of feeling powerful. And I'm going to give you just a few seconds to kind of find that feeling. What is it that you're doing? Where are you or who you are with? Who are you with when you feel most powerful? Sometimes it takes us a minute to find that feeling. You know, oftentimes for us, power feels like excitement, energy, joy, confidence, belief, trust, bravery. Who are you with? What are you doing when you find that feeling of power? I want you to make a note of that. It's so important. And then I encourage you, once you have that feeling identified and when it shows up for you, I want to challenge you to spend more time with that person. I want to encourage you to do more of that thing. I want you to make a note to show up more often in those places, because that feeling of power, I think, is one that we should all feel as often as possible. It is hard to rival for me, and I hope you've found it this morning. I feel powerful when I'm with who, when I'm doing what, when I'm showing up how. All right, everybody, that's your morning mindset prompt. Welcome to the Connected Podcast. This is a safe space to embrace your power. And every single Friday for the 30 minutes prior to the big agent meeting, we're going to bring you an amazing special guest or conversation that's going to help you embrace that power. We're going to bring a guest on that's going to share what they're feeling, what they're going through, and through their experience, we hope that you'll unlock some of those powers for yourself. Today, we have an amazing special guest, a top real estate entrepreneur, worked in multiple markets, multiple locations, a real estate coach, and so much more. just opened a new business I hope we're excited to talk about. I want to hear a little bit more about it. Let's bring on Carrie Reiner. Carrie, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. So happy to have you. Great to have this conversation time together.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. And I appreciate the opportunity. I love the word power, by the way. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Well, let's get right into it. If you love the word power and thinking about everything going on in your world and business, where are some of the spaces or what are some of the things you're doing right now where you feel most powerful?
It's interesting because that journey has unfolded quite a bit, just probably not coincidentally that we're having this conversation today. And it seems like that is my theme this whole year is like, oh, that's not coincidental. But you know what really makes me feel powerful, and I have really found this out over the last year, is that really understanding that these things aren't coincidences. Like that is very powerful to me to understand that all of the things that are happening are actually happening for a reason, and they're happening for me. And never to me, always for me. And I get to choose how I respond to it, what I do, how I bring the best version of myself. And what the best version of myself looks like is, my authentic real self, and not being afraid of that. And that's very, very powerful. So for me, this whole journey the last year has been trying to figure out what are I know conceptually like what my strengths are. I've had a lot of opportunities throughout the years to be a great motivator and a great connector of people. I do know that is a God-given talent of mine. And there's been lots of what I would have said over the years, coincidental situations that have arisen that I thought, oh, that's such a coincidence. I'm just going to introduce those people. And what a cool thing that I got a chance to do that. And I've spent a lot of the last year really thinking a little bit more on that and asking myself some questions like, are these things really coincidences? And what are these things telling me, teaching me? And how can I lean into that even more in order to actually live out my purpose on a daily basis? And a little bit of it was somewhat scary, to dive into that. And a lot of it has really been to be honest with you, a growth in my own personal faith, because I really am coming to a conclusion that it's not me always, doing these things. It's really, God doing these things through me if I am willing to do it. And so I've just been leaning into it, and it's been incredible to see even more quote unquote coincidental opportunities showing up in my life this year that have literally blessed me beyond measure and open up really cool doors of opportunity, like the new business you just mentioned.
Well, I want to get into the new business. I'm excited, but I think you opened up an interesting conversation for me. It brought up a couple of things. When I asked where you feel powerful, how you feel powerful, what makes you feel powerful, you responded with talking about realizing that things that seemed like coincidences for a long time, you've now come to a realization that they may not be coincidences. In fact, they're connected. They're part of the intention, the energy, and the things you're putting out in the world, the mindset and the approach and all the ways you're showing up. I think for me, that is something that maybe I've heard and maybe I've started to believe, but when you really stop and sit back and take notice, you can let it, it can sink in. That's crazy. Okay, so that happened because, and when you stop and reflect, most of the time you are going to find that you had a role, maybe something else outside of you or greater than you had a role, but it didn't just happen completely magically. Maybe you were guided there. Maybe you've been spending many years doing something that took you to this new place. So what have you been spending your time? Maybe give us a little bit before the journey that took you to this place, and then give us a couple of examples of the dots coming together. Again, want to hear about the new business and all that stuff. What are you now finding feels connected that at first you weren't thinking was connected?
Yeah, very frequently I have opportunities to meet people that are supposed to meet each other. It's always happened to me for many, many years in my life. And I always just, believe it or not, even though it happened so frequently, it was just kind of one of those things where I was just going so quickly through all the motions and doing all the things and all the jobs and whatever, that I just didn't slow down enough to actually realize that was really an impactful connection. And yeah, maybe once or twice that could be looked at as coincidental, but it's probably not coincidental if it's happening on a very regular basis.
Right.
And so I thought it was more of a skill I honed, and maybe it is. But actually what I really believe is that I'm just really open, naturally pretty open-hearted and open-minded to finding those types of opportunities to participate in. And so I was doing that, but I was doing it really much more probably subconsciously than I was like actively, you know, and really looking for more of those opportunities and really reflecting on it and really seeing it as a strength that I've been given and a way that I can be used on this earth. And it really is part of my purpose. And so it's been a journey of a lot of reflection. It's been a journey of, for me, prayer and asking for more of those opportunities, and then actually being super open to like what it leads me to. And not always does it lead me to things that are like super joyous. Not always does it lead me to things that are even around what I do for a living. If I'm really, truly open to it, then I'm going to be put in a position in some cases that are hard, but they're meaningful and they matter to somebody else, or they bring me to a co-working space that really leads me into an opportunity to help people not in real estate, which is different for me, but I love it. And it's like exactly what I feel like I should be doing alongside what I'm doing, but I would have not guessed it a year ago. It was not even on my radar. And so the journey of it is, I think, when you said power, initially that started for me with awareness. So being super aware of what is going on around me, in me, you know, through me, just settling in and like really being aware. And then acknowledging it and accepting it. Because sometimes we don't like what we become aware of. Like we're not all perfect human beings here, right? So to me, I think the power comes in first awareness, then acceptance, regardless. And then you now can make a choice, active choice. And that is hopeful. And that is powerful. Instead of just kind of going through the motions of subconscious living, or not with purpose or intention, and just kind of like thinking everything's coincidental and everything's just happening and it's happening to me. You know, we can all get into those patterns in times of our lives. And I surely have been in that pattern in the past, but wow, isn't it so much more powerful when you can choose, when you can be aware, when you can accept, and you can move forward in an active, purposeful, and intentional way. And then you can really believe that you are being used in the way that you were supposed to be by being put on the earth. That's my way of thinking about this. So it's led me in some very interesting paths. Some have been a little bit difficult, personally or professionally. Others have been exciting, and some have been completely unexpected. But I think that's what life's all about. And those are the times and the places and the things that I'm doing right now that I definitely feel more powerful in.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing. So I heard a little formula in there, and I want to unpack each one just a little bit here for the audience. I love that. So you said part of that powerful feeling and that transition and recognizing you're on a journey comes from first awareness. And then you said acceptance and choice. I'd love to go through each one of those, because when you said awareness, what came up for me was kind of twofold. You know, I thought back, and I think everybody could probably think back to some recent experience where you had a perspective on how that situation went down, right? You watched it unfold. Maybe it was a good situation. Maybe it was a not so good situation. You watched it and you had a perspective. And the whole time we start to tell ourselves this story and we start to frame what was going on. And we have some level of awareness of the situation because it literally happened. We saw it. But then imagine, and if you haven't done this, go do it, especially if it was one of those challenging moments or situations. Go ask someone else who was there for their perspective. Take them to lunch, sit down, and just say, hey, walk me through everything that just happened through your lenses. And what you're going to find, I did it recently, Carrie, a situation came to mind for me. They had a completely different perspective, completely different, like step by step. They saw everything different. They heard everything differently. They remember everything different. And what that brought for me was two types of awareness, right? It brought up like the self-awareness that, oh my goodness, I forget sometimes that I'm only looking at something through my lenses, through my frame and my perspective. And I need to remember that there's another story and another story and another side and another side. And there's a person on the other side of that situation. And then what it brought up for me too was that sometimes, back to your gifts and where you feel powerful, sometimes you or me bring some unique perspective to another that is so needed, so necessary. They don't have it. They can't see themselves or the world the way you can because you can't have had the same experiences. So now you have the awareness of being able to help and illuminate a situation or scenario for others. So when you talk about awareness, what comes first? Or in your example, like, is it been a lot of self-awareness? Is it a lot of awareness of the whole situation? And how can people maybe strengthen that muscle a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think it has to start inside for sure. It has to start with self-awareness. And I think that the more you lean into that, the more you spend time figuring some things out, being more aware, working on yourself, whether that be mindset, whether it be spiritually, whether it be whatever it is. There are areas of our lives that we can absolutely become more aware. But I think just as who we are as a human being, that when we spend time in that, it becomes really quite clear. I think it's not that difficult. It's just that most of us don't realize we should, and we don't take the time to do it.
That's true.
You know, we're very busy, all of us, and life is busy. And if we have kids and we have businesses and we're entrepreneurs and, you know, I've fallen into that trap a lot. It's just like not a natural thing to sit down and, you know, self-reflect. It's like, I don't have time for that. I barely am getting, you know, food on the table. And I understand that, but I think that once you start going through that process, or at least for me, it's like I wanted to go through that process more. It's very empowering and it's very exciting to get to know yourself a little bit more. And I mean, part of this probably comes with just 23 years of being an entrepreneur and going through lots of ups and downs and becoming a little bit older and hopefully slightly wiser. I mean, if you're someone new in entrepreneurship and you're just trying to put one foot in front of the other, you know, you can be thinking about like, I don't have time for this. And I understand that because I didn't either. However, I do wish I would have heard somebody talk about this much sooner in my career, because there are small baby steps. And sometimes just becoming aware that you do have the power to make active choices instead of letting your thinking or your thoughts or your stresses or your habits make those decisions for you is empowering enough. Like just being aware of that, you might make some small changes.
Absolutely. And I know that's true. Actually, I'm a father of 3, Carrie. And while you're talking, I'm so fortunate to have a chance to just like sit here and listen and learn from you. Like I'm thinking about my children, and oftentimes I think kids don't realize how powerful they are, you know, because of the way society sort of puts children in school and things like that, right? Like they don't know that they have as much choice as they have. They don't know that if they were to just become a little bit more aware of their surroundings, the setting, the situation, that they have so much control and power over how they respond and how they react. So as you were going through the awareness piece, I love it. It started taking me in that direction of like acceptance. So let's say someone here hearing for maybe the first time or hearing for the time they needed to hear it from someone that makes them feel powerful like you, Carrie. Now they're acknowledging their situation, their surroundings, or a moment like you where I just keep coming across these people and I'm attracting all these people. I need to help put them together. What's that acceptance part like? Because I think with awareness, at least for me, I'll be honest, like sometimes comes up judgment, right? So when I become more aware of something like, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I did that wrong. Oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough here. I should be better in this area. So it's a natural tendency, I would assume, for others too, to kind of get into that place of judging themselves. So what's the difference between like judging everything and actually just that acceptance piece that gives us the opportunity to move closer to choice?
Yeah, I would say, well, you have to be aware you may judge yourself. You may get into like, well,
okay, so not just me, that's real.
So I think the biggest thing is sometimes you have to realize that this is what's going to happen and it's okay. It's normal, because then you can move past it versus thinking you're the only one that does it, because then you can get stuck there. So I think that, you know, we're all put on the earth for a purpose. And so why not you to be able to have this strength or this opportunity, or you're realizing that this is happening around you or for you, or, you know, you should embrace these things. Some people will go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why me? Or I'm not supposed to be doing that, or I'm not worthy of that, or these are the limiting beliefs and the thoughts that are going to come into our mind. But, you know, I mean, here's the deal. Challenge your thinking. The complete opposite of that question that you just asked yourself could be just as true as what you asked yourself, which is, why not me? Mm-hmm. And why can't I be worthy? And why is maybe, you know, God or whatever you believe in using you for that? So the reality is, it's just you kind of coming from a maybe fear-based limiting space, which is what our brain does to protect us. For me, it's just been very powerful to know that that's just what my brain is going to do. It just is, but it's not like it's true. It's just what happens. And so if I choose not to believe it, then I don't have to get stuck there and I can just move on. And so for me, I think it's just, you know, you have to be ready for that, aware of that. And usually when you are, you can combat it differently. But also, I do think that when you start to become more aware or more aware of what your strengths really are, or maybe what your purpose is, be prepared that it might not be what you think it is. And that's sometimes hard, because for me, I felt like, well, maybe I'm letting go, or I have to let go of something I thought I was supposed to do, but I'm not necessarily maybe the boss of that. I mean, that's just my thinking. Like, maybe that isn't in my control and I should be okay with that. And so I think some of us resist things because we think we know. I'm a believer that maybe we don't know. And maybe we should maybe be a little bit more surrendering or obedient to what is coming to us, and accept it and actually embrace it. And then we might realize, like, wow, okay, yeah, I really do feel very in alignment with myself. I feel very authentic to who I am and my strengths. And I've been maybe forcing something that I'm not, because I just thought I was. And I've actually coached people through this where they had this awareness and they're like, I literally am not who I thought I was. And that's just like blows my mind. Like some really high performers that have said to me, Carrie, I don't think I'm that driven person that I thought I really was. I just needed to be that person because I thought I was, and then I acted like it, and then everybody thought I was, and now I have to be that person. And I'm not even that person. I don't even think I like that stuff. And so, you know, that's scary though, because now you actually have to let go of part of you that you thought you were, or that maybe shapes your identity a little bit, and you have to kind of recreate a new identity. And I feel like I've done that a little bit this year, and parts of it are very scary and parts of it are very empowering.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. I mean, that's some bold, brave stuff right there, because I know every person out there listening, Carrie, has, when you were talking, you know, some things came up for me that are tied to past identities, right? Past version of ourselves. Like it is human nature to, even when you are very aware on a day-to-day, like it's human nature a little bit to say like, oh, but that's just who I am, or that's just me, yes, or I'm just doing this because I want this thing. But again, if you're running super fast, or you're going through something super hard, or you have a moment to pause and reflect, like rewind this video a little bit and go back and listen to some of what Carrie was talking about, and use those as prompts to yourself. Like, what are some of the things that I'm doing that I really don't feel in alignment with doing? I'm not called to do. This doesn't feel like my deep purpose. And for me, some of those things, just some awareness, Carrie, like what I find is those things are super draining for me. Those things create constant struggle, pain, and challenge in my life. Those things maybe bring people around me that aren't the people I want around me, right? So if you keep finding these things that seem like they're always happening to you, you know, at the very beginning, you talked about, Carrie, believing that your mindset really does influence and attract all things going on in your life, right? It's not just coincidence, everybody. I do believe that as well, Carrie. And I know and have to accept sometimes that there are some things that just aren't for me anymore. Maybe they were a couple seasons ago and they're not anymore. And I love that. And I think one of the hardest parts, I've been listening to these podcasts, they're totally outside of our real estate and entrepreneurship space, but it's a podcast by some celebrity movie stars, and they interview other actors and producers and stuff. And what you find, what I hear all the time in these massive success stories by like Steven Spielberg and Jon Favreau and all these famous Hollywood folks, they went through some moments in their life, early or late, where they had to make this choice to let go of all these other identities, like you talked about, and go into something totally different and new. And from there, they've made the most beautiful art. They've created some of the most famous things that you and I and everybody would know and have heard of and loved. And I love that idea that once you have some acceptance around all the things you're aware of, now you have some really powerful choices to make. So walk us through what that feels like when you're shedding that old identity or stepping into a new, you know, how do we make some of those choices and what comes up there?
Yeah. You know, identity is just how you see yourself, what you believe about yourself, what you think about yourself. It's nothing more or nothing less than that. So it can be changed at any time, but it is not easy to change it. It's just possible to change it. Yep. Your personality is actually a derivative of your identity. So you will act how you believe and what you believe about yourself. Therefore, if you start to change that thought process, you'll act differently. So you don't have to worry too much about how you behave. You have to really work on what you think and what you believe. And the thing about that is that sometimes you don't know. You just think you are what you are because of what you've always done, but that's not really true. That's just a pattern that you've gotten into. And so this whole idea of self-reflection and seeing like where you really do find really interesting opportunity in, where you really have grown or where you feel the most joy or where you can see yourself just making the most impact. If you spend the time focusing on that, oftentimes you'll find that those things are not necessarily completely aligned with what your identity is. And that's just simply because a lot of our identity is formed in our thinking, and our mind can play a lot of tricks on ourselves or tell us things. Sometimes we form our identity based on what we think other people think about us, or what we think other people should think about us, or we want other people to think about us. Has nothing to do with what we actually think about ourselves or believe about ourselves or see about ourselves. And so that's an interesting journey to go on. It's probably harder work than anything you'll ever do, but it's very rewarding. And I think it is one of those things for me where I did feel like, well, people are seeing me this way. And if I start to do this instead, like, is it going to make me look less successful there? Or there's a lot of people that will say, well, it looks like I'm a failure if I don't keep on this path. Because people are going to just assume that I must have failed at that if I'm pivoting over here. Well, that's just what our mind's telling us. I don't think that people assume any of that, especially if they see you continuing to grow and do cool things. Just because they're different doesn't mean that you had to fail at the last thing to make a change, right? We all go through different changes and seasons and growth in our life. But for me, I had to be okay with whatever the perception was going to be. And I had to lean into maybe what new I would attract and probably what old I would shed, because that would always happen. It's going to happen no matter what you do, because you can't be everything for everyone. That's impossible. You weren't before and you aren't going to be now. So it doesn't really matter. It's just going to change. And maybe now, because of the things that you've gone through, the seasons you've gone through, or the experiences, or whatever the case may be, maybe now it is time for you to go help a different sector of people or do something different, because you've done what you've done already. And that's what you were supposed to do. And that now that journey is over, and it's directing you in a new way. So for me, I really have like, I'm doing a lot more following, I guess where I believe my purpose is. So I'm spending a little bit less time doing the things in real estate that I used to do. That is scary for me. I've been doing it for 23 years, half my life. So that's a big part of my identity. But now I'm finding myself, having people reach out to me that are small business owners, that have similar experiences from the past, that I have this very unique opportunity to help. And it's not an easy help. It's a very probably taxing help, but I believe that person was put in my life for a reason. There's absolutely no coincidence for it. And it's going to take some time and attention. It has nothing to do with my professional self. And in fact, could it take a little bit away from that? Probably. But I really believe I'm supposed to do it, and that's part of my purpose. I'm spending more time volunteering. We started a women's prayer group. We're doing different things. And this is just where I feel myself led to. Now, that does not mean it's not intersecting with my business. It actually is. Right. And some cool things have come up, like this co-working space and helping other entrepreneurs and bringing realtors from all different brokerages together and doing more in-person coaching and training and seeing what's happening. But interestingly, who's being attracted to that is different. That's okay. I think that's what was supposed to happen at this time of my life. It does also, by the way, not negate anything I've done. That's right. Because everything is a stepping stone to this, and everything that I've gone through and all the different roles I've played and all the things that I thought about myself and the way I showed up was all for a reason at the time. And it all has led me to where I am today, because it couldn't be possible had those parts of my journey not existed. So what I guess I would like to tell people is, if you find yourself being pulled in a different direction a little bit, just even personally, it might not even be professionally. Maybe it's relationally, maybe it's health-wise, maybe it is spiritually, and maybe it is business-wise, that those changes do not negate anything. They don't mean that you were a failure before. It doesn't mean this is better and that was worse. It just means that you're becoming more clear, you're becoming more self-aware, and that you're leaning into your power and your authenticity. And maybe it wasn't as easy for you to do that before. And that's okay, because over time you gain the strength to now be able to hear that a little bit more clearly, or see that a little bit more in front of you, and take those opportunities. And that's the journey of life. Like, isn't that exciting?
That's so exciting, Carrie. My goodness, I would love to keep going here deeper and deeper. Everybody, first, Carrie, I want to thank you for this amazing conversation. I love it. I wish we could go on for hours and hours. And I know there are ways folks can get connected to you. You're very active in the family tree in workplace group, right? You're very active on the EXP University Level Up series live on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of Carrie everywhere. You're giving in so many places across the EXP ecosystem, Carrie. So thank you. This was a powerful conversation, everybody. I know you feel inspired. I know you feel motivated, and I hope you feel more connected to Carrie and the ideas that she was sharing here with you today. Carrie, I really believe we're all just one connection away from a totally different life. And today, I think you were that connection, and your ideas were for so many folks. So I want to thank you for joining this conversation. This has been powerful and amazing, and you are appreciated.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, you've got a short, quick minute before the Friday Big Agent meeting kicks off. Go refresh your coffee, fill up your water, text a friend, get on the YouTube channel if you have to leave your desk, and enjoy. We'll see you again next week. Thanks, Carrie.
Morning and happy Friday. This is Big Agent Meeting. My name is Russ Laggan. I am the host. It is June 30th, the last Friday of June. Next week is the 4th of July, and today we've got an amazing show lined up for you. This is going to be a takeover of the C-suite of EXP. I'm going to be handing it over to these guys. We've got Glenn Sanford, CEO and founder of EXP. We've got Des CGO. We've got Leo Pareja, CSO. We've got Carolyn Merchant, CMO. And of course, to end that group out, we've got Amy Somerville, who is the CEO of Success. So today, you guys are going to have to sit tight. We've got two amazing things we're going to be talking about in the state of where EXP is and some new stuff coming your way. And to kick this off, I'm going to send you right over to Michael Valdez. Michael Valdez, take it away, brother. See ya.
Hey, Russ, thank you so much. I'm hoping you're enjoying your vacation. So well deserved. And this is going to be so much fun. We do have a full house for everyone today. So I'm going to start inviting people in. Glenn Sanford, our CEO and founder. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing good, Michael. Hey, thanks. It's been we've had a couple of great announcements, and we're going to talk a lot about it. But we've been seeing each other quite a bit around the country, and I know you've got some great stuff going on down there in I think in Miami. But
we do.
Yeah, it's going good.
I love it. Well, let's sort of bring some other people to this party. Let's get Leo Pareja, our Chief Strategy Officer, in.
We will get Carolyn Merchant, our CMO. And we have Amy Somerville. How are you guys?
Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
Hey. Great to see everyone.
All right. Well, we've got a lot going on. So we've got We've got a lot going on. So we've got three people in one room with different headsets. So this is going to be a technical challenge, but we can get through this. This is going to be fantastic. We have no host today, so we're going to wing it. Russ is on vacation, but we've got some great announcements to make. And I know that we were in DC about a week and a half ago, really talking through a lot of items for us to consider that came from our leadership, and our leadership meaning our top agents around the world that had us really talk about certain topics. And two of those topics actually made the list, and we are very excited to share these items with everyone. The first one is a new program called Boost, and I am going to have Glenn introduce this one. Glenn, what is Boost?
Well, Boost is, and this was a really interesting conversation we had, I guess, 2 Thursdays ago, where we were talking about, a lot of brokerages make it to come to EXP. They want to join EXP, and for a variety of reasons, we've had to go through a lot of trying to get them over the hump to join EXP in a way that was culturally aligned with us. And what this does is it actually allows for us to actually be overt in actually creating that alignment. Prior it was, hey, can you do this on the financials? Can we do this? Can we do that? But their agents wouldn't come over and understand the model because we had kind of jury-rigged a lot of the things to make it work for the previous broker owner and EXP. And so for this is really around bringing in those culturally aligned broker owners and brokerages who want to fully embrace the EXP culture, growth, be with us, help us grow, and to help them financially over the hump of actually shutting down their bricks and mortar and then moving over to EXP. And there's a lot of expenses that go into that. And so we said, why don't we go ahead and put this in so they don't have to figure out, how to create, side deals or different splits with their agents or do different things. Let's create something that creates alignment so that when they come over, it's much more streamlined. So it's really around this idea. We've got a questionnaire that we've put together and we've developed, and it's got some, basically, we'll just say a point system attached to it to really just measure how culturally aligned they are with us. And as long as they're doing the sales volume and they really want to be with us, we're going to make it really easy for them to transition over and to be part of EXP. And this is really, we could think about it as a quasi acquisition, even though it's not an acquisition. It's really a way to help them transition their agents into EXP. And of course, they'll be in their revenue share groups and all the other things that go along with that. So it just helps them in that short run, but it is generous. Like when we actually do the numbers, it's a very good package to get them over. So they'll be excited about not just the longer term part of the business. They'll be excited about even just the transition, because it is probably the most generous brokerage conversion platform that currently exists in the industry. And we just invented it.
This is so exciting. We've had so many people reach out to not only everyone that's on this call today, but a lot of our leadership team already because of this. When we start thinking about the fact that we're in a shifting market, right? We've got independent brokerages that have really had a thin margin that they operate on already. Now, when you have lesser transactions, something like this can truly be a lifesaver for those independent brokerages. So, Leo, tell us a little bit about what the parameters are for qualification.
Yeah, this program I think is going to be a game changer. You know, as there's less pie to go around, there's going to be some folks who may really be open to the opportunity that weren't open before. So the parameters are: you have to have more than 50 agents and $100 million in production. And we came up with those when we really sat down and thought about what an independent brokerage is, right? There's plenty of independent brokers that are 10, 15 people, and that's a team. And we've been onboarding teams very successful here for a very long time. But, you know, we are having conversations already since we announced this with companies as big as 300 and 500 agents. So we're going to be looking at the trailing 12 months. And Glenn said it, but I want to just reinforce it. They must be culturally aligned and committed to adhering to the EXP model. You know, one of the big takeaways from when we were all together a couple of weeks ago is that it's okay to say no to folks. We're not for everybody, but we're looking for the folks who really align and will thrive within our system. This is probably the most important part about the announcement. They have to be independent, non-franchise affiliated. This is only for folks that are not affiliated with a franchise, so we don't create any liability for you guys with tortious interference. Must be invested in our continued growth of EXP, and really must participate in all of the offerings. And there will be an agreement that has timelines and you know, possibilities of clawback if they don't stay per the guidelines. So because of the complexity of how this works, if you find somebody who may be eligible for this, we're going to want you to reach out to the growth team as soon as possible. You are welcome to be a part of all the calls. We will not have you not be part of the process, but just because this is a new program and, you know, the potential confusion that could happen, we don't want any of you guys trying to financially work something out with what the numbers will look like. Just get somebody on the growth team on the phone with them. And Michael and I are also available to jump on with some of the larger opportunities. Back to you, Michael.
And, you know, and that's a really key point. We are not buying brokerages. This is a financial program to bring independent brokerages over into our platform. And so, Amy, I want to ask you, when we start talking about that cultural alignment, really we have the success side of the business as well, which is so integral to so many agents. What does that cultural alignment mean from your point of view?
And we'll unmute. I think success is a mindset. I think one of the things that Glenn and I talked about when I came on to success is that we believe that that's the case. Success is an absolute mindset. And you see that reflected in the agents of EXP, in the leadership of EXP. And I think you're going to see that as this type of a program starts to attract like-minded people. That's the cultural alignment we're looking for, is do you have a success mindset? Do you understand what it is to provide value, not only to your network, but also to the community?
That is incredibly powerful. I love that. And now on the marketing side, Carolyn, how do people find out about this? Listen, we've already been inundated with a lot of requests on this. We actually might have already identified some people that are actually perfect for this program and going through the qualifications and the process. So on the marketing side, how do people get this message across for their sphere of influence and how they can help these potential independent brokerages?
It's a great question. And we're so thrilled. You know, the reaction in the last 24 hours really has been so tremendous. And we're thrilled to see all the interest in this. So if you go to join.exprealty.com, you're going to be able to find the questionnaire and a little bit more information about this program. The qualifications that that Leo just walked us through are repeated you'll find a link to see that, and then these quick steps as well. So join.exprealty.com is your place to go and fill that in. If you're speaking with someone at EXP already, they can also reach out to the growth team, and all of those contact information is linked on the website as well. So we're making this as simple as possible to get in touch with our growth team, who will then review the questionnaire and be in touch with all next steps, and meet with your teams as well, so that you can start to really have a discussion around what this will look like and how everything will work. So again, one more time, because I think that there's just a slight typo on the slide. So it's join.exprealty.com to find more information and the questionnaire.
That's awesome. And I jumped on there earlier this morning, and I can't believe it's already been updated. Everything is there. Everything is there in your fingertips. And so I've seen a lot of the social media already go out now that the press release went out on this announcement and the next one we're about to make as well. So Glenn, back to you. We have a second big announcement that we are doing that is around our FLQA requirements. What's that big announcement, Glenn?
I was muted. This is a big deal. So the press release, I think it went out already today, is that obviously we have our expansion share and our exponential share. Most of the time we don't talk about our expansion share. By the way, I always want to talk about the expansion share because it's actually, in my mind, the most important share, even though we're going to talk about the announcement here in a moment. But the expansion share in EXP, and we're the only brokerage that has it, basically says that if you bring in somebody who brings in agents, no matter how many people you've went wide, you will get a little bit on all 7 levels of our rev share program. I'll say that again. Even if you only sponsor one person, and even if that individual, he or she, do not sell real estate personally, but they bring in a large organization, you will get a small percentage on all 7 levels in your organization through what we refer to as our expansion share. And there are agents inside of EXP that are earning tens of thousands of dollars a month on their expansion share. So and so I want to make sure that you know that we're the only company that has that. Now, in the exponential share, basically is the share that opens up every time you bring in 5 additional productive selling agents. You're automatically opened up on level 1. You get 3.5% of adjusted gross commission income on level 1. But then on level 2, once you've got 5 or more, you open that up. You open up level 3 at 10, at level 4, 15, 20, 25 opens up level 6. And historically, you've had to bring in another 15 agents, go from 25 to 40 in order, productive selling agents, to open up level 7. Now, level 7 has been super elusive. Now, we do have some agents that have, in fact, opened up level 7. But one of the biggest things that we get from very productive agents, very much in the culture of growing EXP, is that it is really hard to both maintain their 40 FLQAs and be able to support the organizations that they've brought in order to help them grow to as big as they can go. And so we've been looking at, is there something we can do? And we got together. We've been polling. I know Leo Michael, and others have been polling agents across the entire ecosystem, and we have reduced the requirement to open up level 7 from 40 FLQA agents who sell at least one property every 6 months on your front line down to 30. So it's just an additional 5 productive selling agents to open up level 7. It's a big deal. Obviously there's a number of agents who it impacts immediately in this coming month once the toggles are changed in our system. But it also makes it much more achievable to get to 30 FLQAs. It's now much more systematic, going from 5 to 10, from 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, and 25 to 30. There's no longer this big gap that feels, for some people, it's deflating to try to go from 25 to 40. Now it's just 5 additional agents that are active, productive selling agents on your front line in order to open up. It's a big deal. We're the only company that's making it easier to qualify for production for these types of benchmarks. And it really helps those agents who are both in production and growing their rev share organizations to open up, because they no longer feel like they need to give up one in order to get to the other, because it's just an incremental 5 productive agents. So super excited about it.
Glenn, this is huge news. We started sharing this with some of the alphas, some of the betas, and Leo and Carolyn and I were on those phone calls. We had people cry on the calls because it impacts their lives so much. Something you just said, which is so powerful, which is the idea that this was put in so that those leaders can support their organizations in a greater way. This was amazing. Leo, we were just at a mastermind that we're going to talk about in a little bit yesterday, and there were some people that this affected directly. Share with us what your thoughts were from that.
Yeah, this is all about the agent, right? Glenn says and continues to say his goal here was the most agent-centric company in the country, in the world, actually, because we're in 24 countries. But one of the things that keeps us agile is a constant feedback loop. If we hear something and we then circulate it and it makes sense, just because we haven't done it in the past, we're not willing to do it. And this is all about going deep and really being able to allow leaders to pour back into their folks. So one of the direct quotes from yesterday were some folks that said, hey, now I can double down on building the people already in my organization, getting them to higher production levels. So, I mean, that's exactly what we're aiming for. We're constantly trying to make us the best opportunity in the real estate industry to build the biggest entrepreneurial dream for you guys. So we listened, we heard you loud and clear, and it's delivered. And if you guys didn't catch it, it goes into effect today, meaning that July 1st, the new rules are in play.
That's so powerful. When we start thinking about this, Glenn, you always say this is the most agent-centric company on the planet. This is the incredible proof of it. This is so amazing that this is agents being heard. This is probably one of the greatest changes to the model in 13 and a half years. So the fact that we have this in place because we wanted to honor the agents. Amy, you were in that room yesterday. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you saw from us giving this announcement.
Yeah, I hate to keep using the word and overusing, but like, reiterate what was said here. Agent-centric is what the feeling was in the room yesterday. As soon as the announcement went out, the entire room erupted in celebration and high-fiving each other. And just the fact that the leadership team can be so agile, can make a decision that is agent-centric for the agent on a dime, knowing that that is what the vision of the company is. I think everybody in the room certainly felt it yesterday, and the energy was palpable. There's this kind of misperception, I think, out in the industry that because EXP is a virtual brokerage, that is their community. Well, I have never seen more community than I did at the mastermind yesterday. A super tight community, like walking away from anything. It was in other masterminds that I've had the pleasure of hosting brand agnostically across the industry. You have to give almost rules and expectations, and make sure that you're respectful and make sure you're sharing best practices. This was the most unbelievably powerful event that I have had the opportunity to be a part of, because the community really shined through. People sharing their deepest best practices and just love and appreciation for their affiliation with this brand.
That's awesome. And we're going to talk about the mastermind in just a second as well. And I want to go back to you, Carolyn. And again, this is a huge announcement. What sort of marketing can people do to really get this message out there for their organizations, for people to understand the impact that this is?
So again, we're trying to make everything as simple as we possibly can. So join.exprealty.com. You'll find presentations for the US, Canada, and international, where all of this information is now updated. So if you're looking for those updated slides, you'll find it there. We also have a press release that's gone out to just this morning, and there's social media posts as well, all out on our channels. So we have quite a bit out there already. And if you're looking for more, please reach out to me anytime, and we can give you some more content and assets for you to build into your presentations and anything that you're doing.
And Carolyn, you just brought up a great point. Both of these announcements are global. Yeah. So the idea of FLQAs down to 30, that goes into effect, as Leo said, tomorrow, end of day today. So beginning of third quarter, which is July 1. And also on the independent brokerage, on the Boost program, the idea of 50 agents and 100 million, the 100 million is US dollars. So we are going to roll out what the qualifications are in currency specific models for every single country. So those are coming. So for everyone that has opportunities around the world, please bring them to us and we will take care of them on a case by case, but every country will have their requirements and we'll get you that really, really quickly. So Glenn, again, thank you for your leadership, for really listening to the agents, for making this the most agent-centric company on the planet, and for really affecting so many people's lives around the world with these changes. I know you've got other meetings, but thank you, Glenn.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to be talking about why we are all here together. So yesterday, we had the great honor of hosting what is going to be our very first mastermind that we did for top producers. And so these are the very top producers by production around the globe. So we started in Miami and we focused on top US individual performers, top US team leaders, and then those top team leaders and individuals in the state of Florida. We had about 70, 75 people in a room yesterday, and it was extraordinary because the conversations were so different. This is a level of conversation from a producer's point of view that is so important. Leo, I want to start with you as to the idea of why we are doing this, what the plan is, what your schedule and mine will be in the next few months. But tell me a little bit about what the vision was behind it.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Plain and simple, our agents are our greatest asset. I don't think people understand or appreciate the sentence that I run around telling everybody, which is we're the single largest monolithic brokerage in the United States. We're 75,000 agents strong in this country. We're 6,000 agents strong in Canada and growing in other countries. In most other countries, we're in the top 5 of fastest growing brokerages. But we're not a franchise. When you think of our competitors that have 180,000 agents or 250,000 agents under multiple brands, I say BS. That's not what they have. They have franchisees with some of their biggest offices as maybe 800, 1,000, at big as 1,500. We are one company of 75,000 agents in a single country, which means, as I like to say to most folks, we're the NFL and the other guys are just, high school or college ball. So when we get to invite our entire roster, we have the highest performing athletes, to continue the analogy, in the game we play. And so what happens is we get to share with those folks And the conversation yesterday was not fluff. We were talking about margin, net. How do you pay folks? What are the splits? What are the retention tools you do on your team? And because of our incentive program, it's okay for your teammates to grow up and become individual agents, because then you actually got to pour into them and you got to have them pass the hurdle of failure, which is pretty high in this industry. So we were hearing from folks doing hundreds of transactions. I'm talking about 400, 500, 600 transactions in a year, to having some of the top single agents who still do 50 or 60 transactions in some markets. And, you know, the one is not better than the other. You know, as we heard, some of the independent agents have a 70, 80% margin, but being in the room with some of the top teams, they were able to take aways of whether to grow or not and how to leverage their business. But as Michael said, the show is going on the road. So we will be doing this around our national events, where it will be very structured and we invite all the top folks who qualify. But as Michael said, we kicked it off in both of our hometowns in Miami. We will be doing it in San Diego on July 14th. You will be getting an invitation if you qualify based on production. Again, we will be doing an EXPCon in October, and probably sometime in August, Michael and I will be making our way to Texas. So, and in between, wherever Michael and I individually or together happen to be in, we'll do an impromptu one, as he's potentially doing one in the UK, and I may be doing one in Portugal. So,
and EXPCon Canada too.
More
so
and more of this to
Canadian.
come at the regional level. If you don't feel forced. So, you know, so folks from the West Coast said if Miami's too far and too short notice, that's okay. That's actually by design. We will have the big inclusive ones at our major events where you're probably already scheduled to be. But what we loved about the conversation is most of the people yesterday were from the Southeast or Florida specifically. So they were able to have very geographic specific discussions as well. And so we expect a different conversation in the West Coast, because it's just a different group of humans potentially dealing with different issues at the time. But we were deep in the weeds on conversion and what lead sources are, well, and the expectation, and it was not scripts and dialogues on how to close a consumer. It was the scripts and dialogues to attract team members and build them up and get them excited about different lead sources of what to focus on. So this is early days, but I firmly believe that this is probably the most powerful thing we can harness is you guys, and put you in the room with other top performers. Back to you, Michael.
You know what I thought was really interesting? We've gotten so much positive feedback, and thank you to the 70, 75 folks that were there for our first real full day one. It was a powerful, powerful day. And what was interesting was Carolyn shared a message that we got today saying that people did not want to leave the room because they didn't want to miss what other people were saying. Imagine that. These are the top of the top in our field, in our industry, because as Leo said, we're the largest independent in the industry. And when you start thinking about the top of the top in the same room, learning from one another, this was a true mastermind. There was not a bunch of panels on the stage, and we were not talking at anyone. We were talking to everyone. And that was what was so powerful. And Amy, I know that you've done tremendous amount of training with your background, but you just said that it was one of the most amazing rooms you were in. I'd love to hear your feedback on yesterday.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I'm sorry I jumped the gun earlier in the previous question. I really am just so excited. Powerful. We keep using that word. It's almost an understatement because, yeah, my experience, I think coming into the room, not only was everybody super excited to hear from each other, but it really was a conversation, top producer to top producer, best of the best, cream of the crop, sharing their granular ideas around everything from recruiting or we'll say agent attraction and retention and team building and lead generation and, coaching, marketing. Really incredible marketing strategies. But what I thought was really a differentiator, as I mentioned, like typically you walk into a mastermind and you have to lay out all of the rules. And then you go to a geographically specific area and people see them, see each other as competition. So they kind of hold back and don't want to share their best ideas because they're giving, their gold to their competitors. None of that was experienced. So it was a really refreshing and really exciting for me to be in a room that didn't require rules. They all knew why they were there. They knew what they wanted to get, they knew what they wanted to give and to contribute, and they were all together as a team, all working a lot of similar markets, or even the exact same marketplaces, and still willing to share their gold nuggets. What has helped elevate them, but also share, like, hey, these were some of the challenges that I've had in the last couple of years, and you can learn from that as well. Like, learn from the path I walked, and also learn from the path that I walked and it wasn't as comfortable. So I just thought it was an incredible event. I want to thank you all for allowing me to be there, but also just meeting wonderful agents who were willing to share their best practices, vests open. What an incredible day.
You brought up a really great point. It was the idea that everybody was there in community. It was the idea, we had Nathan Abbott and Veronica Figueroa, for example, talking about teams. And both of them have very, very successful teams. They opened their playbook. They talked about their tier structure. They talked about their profitability. They talked about how they actually get to profitability. And we had such a vibrant discussion. That doesn't happen anywhere else. It just doesn't happen. Everyone really is so competitive with one another here because we're just one company, as we keep saying over and over again. It's a place of community that's open. One of the other things that I thought was really interesting, we had 5 key topics that people wanted to talk about, but they started bleeding into one another, right? So Carolyn, when people were talking about, branding and marketing, they were also talking about other areas of growth that they were doing. Some of the things that were really interesting to me on the marketing side was the idea of using AI for social media and how to really leverage themselves. The other big thing was branding of an agent of how they brand themselves, how they actually get that into the marketplace. What were your thoughts on yesterday from a marketing point of view?
The branding discussion was so great, because I think what really came out of it is that a lot of the team leaders in particular are looking at 2 levels of branding. So their team brand, but then also how they enable all of their agents to build their own brand on top of that. So it's not, the 2 aren't competing, they're working together. And it really gives, to your earlier point, the opportunity for a lot of agents to continue to grow and for those team leaders to pour into them. Because again, there is no competition, there is no downside for anyone deciding to go independent or deciding to, to work differently within EXP. And so that was a really interesting conversation. I think there's a lot of really unique ways too that people were looking at that, and how they were actually even training and enabling and incentivizing agents to really dig into their own brand and their own brand persona in coordination with the team brand, and then EXP of course too. So that was really inspiring, and just I think a lot of good nuggets came out of that discussion.
I love that. And we actually had a question from Glenn as to the topics that we were talking about at the mastermind and how we can actually socialize that with all of the agents. I think that's a fantastic idea. So maybe we start a workplace group for everyone, or put it into our workplace community and share that. We actually have a new member of our marketing team, Victoria, who was incredible. She's joining us as our VP of US marketing, and she actually took live notes on the deck and really had specific takeaways on each one of the topics that we had. I think that would be a powerful document to share with our entire agent community.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have that ready to go. It was ready within 10 minutes of ending the mastermind, which is so incredible because everyone walked away with those key takeaways and the full notes in hand. And so not only is it powerful being in the room, but you also have something that you can look back to and refer back to. So I 100%, I think we should be sharing this more broadly. So we'll get on that.
It becomes an aspirational thing for everyone else as well, right? Yeah. Really getting the playbook from those that are the top producing agents and team leaders in our brand to be able to show how others can get there. So thank you, Glenn, for your leadership and the question there. So we will share that with the entire community of agents within EXP. So that'll be really exciting. But now, speaking about Glenn and his leadership, we know that Elira and I were going to be on the road, and you guys are going to join us on some of these stops as well, which is going to be amazing. But the key one is really having Glenn's vision on a mastermind. And the next one is going to be at EXPCon. And we know that on the next slide, we want to remind people about EXPCon. And it's the idea that a lot of these hotels are already booking up fast. So Carolyn, tell us what we've got planned for EXPCon.
So EXPCon US is October 2nd to 5th in Vegas again. And it's all about AI. Everything about technology, how to use AI to grow your business, to increase your productivity, to get things done differently than we've been able to in the past, just because we have this new technology available to us now. So we're going to be going deep into that. And then, you know, on top of that, we'll have our great general sessions. We're going to have amazing speakers that we'll start to announce soon. Lots of breakout tracks that you're used to, and some really incredible networking events. And then, of course, our awards gala, which you don't want to miss. And then, as Michael and Leo also said, we'll have another Top 50 Mastermind with Glenn on site at EXPCon in Vegas. And I also do want to give a quick shout out to our Canadians as well, because we have EXPCon Canada coming up September 6th to 8th, and Glenn will be hosting a Top 50 Mastermind there as well. So we have two big ones coming up that we're really excited about, in addition to the roadshow that Michael and Leo are leading.
So that's going to be exciting. And then, Amy, we've got a lot of opportunities with speakers, because we're actually going to be using the Success Speakers Bureau, which is going to be really exciting with all of the efforts you're doing. So we can't announce anyone yet, but tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. No, we've been head down and focused on the success side to kind of pull in the entire ecosystem from our we'll say our print and cover talent into Speakers Bureau, podcasts, events, certainly bringing the power of success to EXP and EXPCon. So really looking forward to it. You know, AI is not a conversation that every company is having, and this is a really exciting opportunity for you to get way above and way forward of anybody else in the industry. I'm really looking forward to, no spoiler alerts here, but can't be more excited about my first EXPCon. And thank you all for using the Success Speakers Bureau.
And Leo, what are you most excited for EXPCon?
I always get excited about seeing everybody in person, right? We are a virtual company, but it's funny when people ask me how it's like, but I actually feel like I see quite a bit of you in person. And because of our virtual nature, I think everyone in the company even enjoys the personal interactions even more, right? So since they're not as frequent for us, it's something we all cherish. So that's my favorite part, is interacting with the agents, getting to see products and ideas come to life, and just getting to talk to people and hearing how the company affects their business in a positive way is probably my favorite part of the event.
I love that. So we're going to see you all at EXPCon. And you know what's so funny? We thought we were going to have a conversation for 15 minutes and really have a short show. We've been on for 40 minutes. So we're now out of time. So thank you, guys. As always, it was such a privilege and an honor to be with you yesterday. Some of us are still in the room together, so we continue to have this great effect together in real life. And I believe we've got ICONversations next. So thank you all very much, Leo, Amy, Carolyn. Thank you. We'll see you soon. And back to you guys and ICONversations.